Hello and a huge welcome. Today I want to share with you two patterns which stop 95% people from manifesting what they really want. What I'm about to share with you is something Neville Goddard, those who follow Neville Goddard's teaching, they know like how powerful his work was. He always experienced that his students would come to him and he would find these two patterns which were getting in the way. Like every time he would recognize that these are the two things which people are actually using or getting stuck in when it comes to blocking their manifestations. And then what happens was that my mentor Bob Proctor, when he was working with his students, he realized that his students started to come at a point where they were hitting a ceiling, like an invisible ceiling. It's like they're hitting a brick wall and they're not able to go past through it. It's constantly blocking them. Like no matter how hard they try, they were constantly bouncing back. What Bob Proctor realized was that this was the common theme in even with his students. He really acknowledge that and recognize that. And I've experienced, in my experience with all my students and all the clients that I work with, that these things keep coming up. So I really want to highlight them. When I say 95% people struggle with that, I really mean it. It's the fact behind, and not only me, but a lot of people have experienced that. The two things which are poverty of imagination and lack of focus. What do I really mean? What I mean is that we have our beautiful higher faculty called imagination. And we are meant to use it and create beautiful images, really think about what we want. And when we start manifesting, we imagine things, we are going to that place, we're feeling it. But as things start to kick off, what I notice is with a lot of my clients as well, they start to operate in their physical reality because they're constantly navigating what's happening in their physical reality. The energy and the frequency with which they operate tends to come from the now, and they stop using their imagination as much as they were, because as things start to happen in the physical, they get so involved with it. Let's say that if it comes to manifesting a dream client and all of a sudden a payment declines, or somebody said, I wanted to work with you and they don't, then these things start to really bother them. And instead of coming from that place and from that frequency and from that energy, what they tend to do is they're constantly fighting the now. But the problem is that their frequency goes down. So the frequency now, the energy that they're operating with, is their current reality, which means they're attracting more of that. The key here is to really exercise this higher faculty, the muscle that you have got, which is your imagination, and really use it to create the picture, to create images. Whatever life you want, it will be first created in your imagination. But if you find yourself so much living in the present and coming from the problems and the challenges and day-to-day and firefighting and constantly navigating, then you will attract more of the same, because that's what you're currently building in your imagination. The way I see imagination, like Napoleon Hill said, is the workshop of your mind. You build everything inside the workshop. You cannot build things outside the workshop. So you have to go in the workshop, consciously create scenarios, live the stories. If you're manifesting your dream home, organize parties there in your mind. Go and drive there. If you can book a viewing and actually view it and see yourself there, physically try to go as close as possible so that you can give your mind the right environment to imagine that. Sometimes you need to be really bold, like test driving your dream car. When you go to the place and you ask the person there, the sales guy, that I want to test drive that car, and deep down you can't afford it yet, you might have a bit of like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to just go and ask to test drive, and I know I don't have the money in my bank account yet. It takes bold steps to actually go and experience that, and not only go and experience that, but create those scenarios in your mind. One of the powerful things that I do is I have created my playlist in such a way, which is one song is the preview of the house that I live in. So every time I listen to that song, it takes me to the house, right? The house that I'm manifesting now. And that's how I manifested this house, the one I live in right now. And then the other song takes me to the business that I'm building. The other song takes me to the clients that I experience. The other song takes me to the person I'm becoming. As I constantly play my playlist, everything is prompting to that. Instead of just relying on your mind to go to that places, bring your current things as prompts. Like one of my clients said to me that as soon as I wake up, I start thinking about all my problems, and this is the autopilot thing. I'm used to thinking about what I need to do, how I don't have the money, or all of those things, and what we decided, what she did was she had this jar with all the like prompts, like all the slips folded up, and she would just take one slip out the first thing in the morning, and it would be written your dream car, your dream house, your this, your that, the money you're manifesting. So she would naturally start to think about those, but you have to first create those images in your mind, right? And you have to build them in the workshop of your mind. And when you do that, you will start to really channel your energy in that direction. And even when you navigate the day-to-day life, first of all, the problems will decrease, the negative scenarios would decrease, because now you're on that frequency. And secondly, even when they come, the contrasts come, because contrast is the part of your manifestation. You would be able to deal with it from a different energy. You would be able to reframe it better. You'll be able to see it differently. Your identity will change. Living in your imagination is the most important thing, and a lot of people tend to miss that point, and they start to focus too much on pushing the scenario and trying to make it happen instead of coming from that place. When you come from that place and completely let go of what's happening in the now, you all of a sudden channel a completely different energy. You plug into a completely different frequency. And I've seen the worst situations turning into the greatest things when you do that, because it's not what's happening right now. It's what's your frequency, how you're perceiving it, what meaning you're giving to it. When you come from that place, your alignment changes completely, and the things which seemed like a problem, they look like opportunities. The things where you thought it's not working, all of a sudden you start attracting things. You get that idea, you get that idea. So what I've noticed is as I shift my perception and as I go in my imagination, results kicks off in seconds. It doesn't even take long. It kicks off in seconds. There's so many tools that I get my clients to use. For example, you can use a perfume. Let's say you really like a smell of a perfume. You can associate it with the amount of money that you're manifesting. Every time you put that perfume, it reminds you. Maybe there is something you can put on your phone screen wallpaper, like your goal card, or an affirmation that you can put. I'm so happy and grateful now that I have. And every time you see it, there could be things outside which can take you to that place. And doing this work of shifting your energy is as important, in fact, 100 times more important than actually taking the action. Because if you take action from the frequency of your present circumstances, you'll create more of the same. Doesn't matter how hard you try. This is something that Neville pointed out. This is something that Bob Proctor pointed out. Living in your imagination more and more. And the more you live in your imagination, the more you build it, the more you exercise that muscle, the more that muscle gets stronger. And especially if you are someone who hasn't used it enough, or you feel like, I can't concentrate, then it could be that you start journaling from that place. You start talking to yourself from that place. You play music and listen to that. The more you let go in a way that not fight with the current and keep going to that place and coming from that place. And one thing I found with a lot of people is they start to do this gap analysis. How far am I from my imagination? How could it actually happen? And if they don't find the way that it could happen, they don't go in their imagination. But the thing is, if you are in this frequency, it doesn't connect to what you want. The dots don't connect. So the only way you can get to that place is through that higher frequency. It doesn't exist on that frequency. So even if you try to connect the dot, it's not going to work. So don't try that. Just go on the higher frequency. It's all there. Right? So shift your perception. If something negative happens in your life, shift it and ask yourself, how is it taking me there? Right? And practice living more and more in your imagination. And the most powerful thing is using your current circumstances and building a neural connection. When I see this, it reminds me of that. When I see this, it reminds me of that. So the more you build that associations, and you do that with repetition, like just do it a few times. Like when I was manifesting this house, there was a song I used to listen to, and every time I would listen to that song, I would be in this house. So I didn't even have to consciously try to think of being in this house the moment I just played it. And there was a time when I would sit in my car and that song would play. I don't know why, like I didn't set it, but the song would just play by itself. And it reminded me, right, that I am in that house. This is the way we shift associations, we shift the meaning. It's like you're taking a shopping trolley, and whatever you're putting in the trolley, you're building your future life with that. If you're focusing on the things that you don't want, or you're firefighting the present reality, you're putting that in your trolley to build the future, and you don't want to do that, right? It is really important. And there is a whole beautiful session I did on there is what is really time, and there is no such thing as future. Because even when I say future, it doesn't feel like future, because it's perpetual transmutation of energy. So its energy is shifting. Now is shifting into what you're focusing at. It's not really future, it's just now and now, and it's shift into what you're focusing at, and it brings a new reality. And the new reality, it's really important to ask yourself, what am I focusing on now? Am I exercising my imagination more? Can I get used to it, using it more and more and more? And it requires practice, it requires conscious knowing, and it requires, like, I cannot create anything outside the workshop. Let's go in the workshop. And this brings to the second thing, which is focus. Focus means, which is our second higher faculty called will. Traditionally, the way we are taught will is that if you keep forcing, if you keep pushing, if you keep doing it, keep hustling, that's will. Will is not that. Will is using the power of your mind to hold that image even when you feel like it's not working, or when you're distracted by other things. If you want to look at our subconscious, whatever you put into that, it's channeling that into your physical reality. It's like a projector. So if you are completely focusing on the image that you want, and you're focusing on that, and you're holding on to that, and not getting distracted by the drama of life, not getting distracted by what somebody's saying, or how other people are reacting to you, or what is going on, or other things, then you will naturally in your action focus on that more. So if you're procrastinating, it's because you are not right now filtering everything out and really focusing on what you desire. Now, there is something really confusing. It doesn't mean that you need to completely let go of every aspect of your life and just focus on that image. It means that you have to start to focus on the things that are currently distracting you, right? And that are taking you away from that. So spending time with your kids is that version of you would also spend time with your kids. Going out with family, having the time of your life, experiencing beautiful things, you will do all of that as that version. The question is, what would you not do as that version? And then taking it off your radar and your distraction. For example, if that version of you wouldn't care what other people think, then if you are thinking you're not in alignment, if that version of you wouldn't question and doubt yourself that much, anything that is a gap between that version and this version, that is causing the distraction. And that's where you need to exercise your willpower to say, you know what, it doesn't serve me, it needs to go. What I often find is that because of this social media and 3-second attention and short reels and all of that, we have really struggled with our willpower and with our will to focus on an idea, because we get easily distracted, especially when we are like scrolling up and watching reels and quickly scrolling up. Our attention span is getting really low, right? There is a powerful tool that you can use to actually increase your willpower, to increase this muscle will. What you can do is, and this is exercised by a lot of famous athletes, CEOs, and executives. Like, it's a really powerful tool by a lot of millionaires, billionaires. You light a candle in front of you, and you sit and look at the candle. When you're looking at the candle, you cannot think about anything else other than the candle, and you cannot look at anything else other than candle. Try to be in a place where it's quiet so you can focus, and you keep thinking and looking at the candle. After a few seconds, your attention span will start thinking about something else, and you will start thinking about, oh, what I need to do, what will happen, or something else. The moment you find your mind wandering, you can bring your attention back, and you can start looking at the candle again and thinking about the candle again. So you will catch yourself getting distracted hundreds of times in the beginning, but the more you constantly come back to that, your attention and your focus will increase. So you'll exercise that muscle. So it's not more about candle, but it's about building that muscle of focus and will. And a point will come where you and candle will become one. And that's the point. You match it, you fuse with it. A point comes in your life when you and your vision becomes one, if you keep focusing on it. And the more you exercise that, the more it works. Andrew Carnegie, who was the first ever billionaire, he was a very poor guy from Scotland. His parents couldn't afford his education, so he had to leave his education and start child labor to really help his parents. At that time it was legal, so they moved from Scotland to America, where he left his education and started working as a child labor. He became the first ever billionaire, and somebody said, like, how on earth he can be so rich? Like, he must be doing some kind of fraud or some kind of weird thing. Like, how can somebody start from nothing and become so rich? People and reporters start to really investigate and start to really ask him, and people were quite curious, at that time, especially in the news agencies, and he heard about people's curiosity, and he said, let me answer you. I have the power to focus on one thing over a long period of time. That's why I have a power to focus on one thing. If you build that muscle, it really serves you, because it makes your subconscious a clear channel for your vision, and whatever thoughts, which is the currency of universe, your thoughts are the real money, because they transmute it to things. Okay, they become things, they become the vision you want. They started to really channel into the images that he wanted, and they were not all scattered. Like, if you look at light and laser can cut through steel. Why? Because it's focused. But if you scatter the light everywhere, it can just scatter and has no power. When he started to really focus and become that channel, you can cut through anything. The focus is the key, and especially in this time and age when we have iPads and we have reels and all those things, we are losing that, like, easily distracted. Doing this candle exercise and even increasing your time for meditation and focusing on one thing also really helps. Using and building and exercising this muscle can really help you, because this is the thing what Andrew Carnegie really gives credit to for his becoming the richest man in America and the steel magnate. And he said, any idea that is held in the mind, either feared or revered, either you fear it or you really want it, it begins to clothe itself in the most convenient way possible. But the idea has to be held. If you're not able to hold the idea, we need to exercise more of focus. And I'll see you soon.